Wednesday, December 3rd, it's 6:14. I'm going to call the meeting of the Building Advisory Committee to order. And we will start with public comment. We have one member, Mary.
What you all don't know is that Ralph, yesterday being sick, helped put together a meeting with a bunch of us and did a great job, so what a trooper.
We all appreciate that. So.
It's hard to understand how in a state with mandated cuts to carbon emissions that our new contemporary middle school is slated to have zero reimbursement for our renewable energy systems from RIDE, a state agency. That reimbursement would be a game changer, not only as an important contributor by our town to Rhode Island's Act on Climate Goals, but also as long-range savings to our townspeople. Schools that have successfully made this energy transition have found that savings can be used for structure and efficiency upgrades, additional staff positions, needed supplies, or new programs. Attacks by the current federal administration on wind and solar have been aggressive. However, geothermal energy systems have been less savaged, and financial supports may still be available. Across the bay, 5 Newport mansions are now using geothermal wells and heat pumps to reduce their fossil fuel consumption. The Breakers, which was among the very first homes in the country to have electricity, drilled their 75 geothermal wells back in 2018. They were only drilled 100 feet deep, yet immediately cut their costs in half. The Marble House, the latest to drill 21 wells 425 feet deep, expect to cut their oil consumption, currently 400 to 450 gallons a week, and energy costs by 80% while heating, cooling, and stabilizing humidity levels. A new net zero school could figure prominently in our town's ability to lead by example. It would superbly illustrate the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. To literally see solar panels that are efficiently providing clean energy and saving residents money is a huge visual tutorial to other homes, businesses, and churches in town. Additionally, within our new school, a dashboard could teach students valuable lessons in real time on how actions are translated into energy savings and carbon emission reductions. These students will become much more effective caretakers of their surroundings. How are we ensuring that renewable energy systems will figure prominently in our new building? I know you're all working hard to bring a net zero school to North Kingston, and trust you will keep us informed. And when I say us, I speak for a lot of people, and so keep us informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 5th meeting. Everyone have a chance to look at those?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, I just want to make a motion to move the discussion and potential vote for the Woodford Middle School construction manager at risk and invoices for approval prior to the presentations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No.
Who
Okay.
seconded that?
Me.
And this is to move which
To move,
numbers?
number 6 and 7. Next. Okay. So next on the agenda is for us to share with you in regards to the bidding process for construction manager at risk. The companies that did put in a bid, what we went through to review that. We had an interview process. There was a subgroup within this committee that interviewed 4 of the companies, and then the selection of who we're bringing forward tonight. Do you want to?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you, Sam.
In front of you, folks, we have a summary memo, and the superintendent just kind of touched on those. But just for kind of a couple of the process that we went through, previous meeting with this committee, the decision was to kind of proceed with going out to do a solicitation for CMAR, and that was after we reviewed the kind of the two different procurement approaches. So on the 22nd of October, the district publicly advertised through BidNet, which is their standard kind of advertisement tool for these services. There was a pretty exhaustive CMAR RFP that was included in that documentation. It also included reference documents specifically on the middle school, all of the stage 2 addendum site and building plans, so that the CM market could kind of understand what the project was and the kind of overall extent. So on the 12th of November, we received 6 proposals, which is a really good market response. Consigli, Dimeo, DOC, Gilbane, ONG, and Shawmut were the folks that submitted. We know these folks. Some are a little bit more well-known in the Rhode Island market. DOC and ONG have Rhode Island offices, but are definitely, DOC is a Western Mass-based, pretty large CM that does a lot of public work. Not as much schoolwork in Rhode Island. ONG is starting to do more and more work here in Rhode Island. So the evaluation committee that included the superintendent, the town manager, one of your fellow building advisory committee members, and the interim facilities director all served as a review group. And basically they went through all the proposals and reviewed against the criteria that was provided in the documentation. And just as kind of a high-level summary, a lot of the criteria was, qualifications of the firm. Have you done similar public school work? Have you done similar public school work in Rhode Island? What are the team resumes that you've included? There was a lot on approach and kind of their process of how they work through these similar type projects. And then there was a financial piece to this. This was the pre-construction fee, which of the total project cost is relatively small, but that is their fee to kind of be at the table with us for the next 8 to 10 months as we go through the pre-construction activities and ultimately get to what is a final contract that then we would be able to implement. So the committee reviewed and it was decided that 4 firms would be invited into the interview process, and that was Consigli, Dimeo, Gilbane, and Shawmut. We conducted those interviews last Tuesday. Seems like a lifetime ago. So each team had 15 minutes. We did a 30-minute presentation and then 20-minute Q&A. And then at the conclusion of that, the review team was able to kind of reconvene and kind of go through their process of who they thought won the interview step. So what you see on the back page is the final result. So coming out of the interview step, it was agreed by the team that Shawmut was kind of the top vote getter and therefore got the full 10 points. And that put them at the top of the overall points. And you can kind of see how it trends across. Consigli was at 67, Dimeo 69.3, Gilbane 77.5, and Shawmut 79.5. And that includes those the interview points that are added to that. So Shawmut's fee for their pre-construction activity is $100,000. Everybody had different fees. These fees are, I don't think, representative of the work that has to be in place. If you see the presentations that they made and the fee summaries that they did, a lot of their fees were much higher, and then they all introduced a discount. And it's basically, they're trying to be aggressive and show that they want the job in addition to all their qualifications. So we saw a pretty wide spread. I would say that Shawmut was kind of right in the middle of the fees that we saw. There was a low of 50,000. I think a high was in the 400,000 there, Erica. So that number is not surprising. It's actually, I think it's pretty aggressively low, even though it's not the low. So the recommendation out of that review team is that Shawmut would be the recommended CM partner. If this group votes on that tonight, that vote would then get advanced to a superintendent. I believe there's a special joint hearing on the 15th.
Yes, so from here, whatever the recommendation is from the advisory committee, it will go to the school committee on December 15th, and then it will also go to the town council meeting on December 15th as well for
And again, this initial fee is just to get us to basically through the fall of 2026. And then they would come back to the team with what we call a guaranteed maximum price contract, and that is the total cost of the project to deliver it all the way through. So happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of information. We tried to condense it in a way where at least the building advisory committee could kind of digest it, but we're here to answer questions. And I know Kenny and Ralph were part of this process, so they can certainly weigh in too with any comments or thoughts.
I can share that I just, I think we were very fortunate that we had 6 known companies and we interviewed 4 of them. I think in picking Shawmut, for me, I think it was their reputation for excellence in safety and quality of work really stood out. They're known for their commitment to construction safety, quality control, thorough project management. They have an emphasis on safety and just overall, their experience and productivity and looking at their portfolio. They have a lot of work with elementary, with just schools in general, public schools, experience working with RIDE, with the SBA office, and also keeping budgets, within, making sure that their construction and the completion of the projects are coming within budgets. So that, and all would be why I would support them in moving this recommendation forward. I also have a short comment from Steve Ferrara. Steve sat on the interview process. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here tonight, but he did, wanted to provide comment for this. He said as part of the construction manager at risk evaluation committee, he reviewed 6 proposals and attended the 4 interviews with finalists on November 25th. He supports the award of the construction manager at risk contract to Shawmut, and he believes that their experience, approach, and proposed team are best suited for the Wickford Middle School project.
And they can get started right away? I'm sorry, I just jumped in.
Yeah.
They have the ability to with their teams.
Yep.
Without dissect, appreciate all the work and the interviews. What does Shawmut have recent experience building next to an existing school in operation?
I can speak to that. We have personal experience because we just turned over Martin Middle School, the first phase. Yeah. The kids moved in Monday.
Yeah.
And so Shawmut, we've been working with them on that project for the last 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Literally wall to wall.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna, they're starting demo probably next week on the classroom wing of the existing building that's gonna be coming down. And then they're gonna start construction of a pre-K wing that's gonna deliver in the spring of '27.
Gotcha.
So, and I
That's
think,
good. Yeah, I mean, just bringing those lessons learned,
Yeah.
I think are gonna be helpful.
right.
Sure.
For you, Dave,
Yeah.
and, everybody.
And I think a lot of the firms, I mean, it's not an uncommon environment to be in, Andrew,
Right.
With your work.
Yep.
That you had these adjacencies.
Mhm.
So a lot of folks are able to demonstrate a thoughtful logistics plan and kind of how you bisect the site and make sure that
Mhm.
you've got a hard line of division between active construction and the day-to-day operations of the school. But I personally, we've seen that in real time recently, and we've seen it with some of the other firms too as well.
Yeah, I think you said, Kenny, I mean, any of those 4 are pretty good candidates, so.
So any other questions or comments from the committee? No? I will put a motion that our school building advisory committee, we recommend to the school committee that we award the bid to Shawmut as our construction manager at risk for Wickford Middle School.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you. So we will share this. I'll also put a little write-up together and we'll have that to school committee, and I will send a memo to Jeanette for your town council.
Perfect, thank you.
And we'll, in the interim, we'll have that pre-construction agreement ready.
Mhm.
But I think if it proceeds accordingly through the other 2 bodies, we'd want to have them start the day after the hearing, if at all possible. So, because their value add is going to be immediate because they're going to start to participate in cost estimating and review the plans and all that kind of stuff. So, we'll prep accordingly for that, Kenny, and then provide you guys with information.
Great, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is to review and approve the invoices that we have, the recent invoices, and we also have the updated school bond workbook from Leslie. So there are 5 invoices that are new invoices for us to approve. There are 2 from Peregrine. One is for $33,500, and that is for work. The dates for November, project services, and CIP, thank you. And then the second one's for $39,130. We have a Perkins Eastman invoice here that was from June to August, and that is for schematic design and for supplemental work for the stage 2, addendum 4. And that is it for the amount of $424,263.95. We have a second invoice from Perkins Eastman, and this is for schematic design work, work that they're doing. This is professional services in the month of September, and that is for $47,994.30. There's a third one from Perkins Eastman, and this is from October 1st through October 31st for schematic design, and there was a balance there from the stage 2 addendum 4 work, and that's for a total of $290,336.95. And then the last invoice here is for Vortex. There was Vortex had to come in as part of the CIP work for the buildings that are getting the roof replacements, and they just had to perform asbestos inspections for those schools, and that invoice is for $6,350.
Make a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think I have that invoice, so do I send that to you?
Which one?
The 6,000 one?
I have it right here.
You do have it?
I already have it,
Okay, so
yes.
if I have it, then I can just,
Yeah, you don't need, so,
I don't need to worry
that,
about it.
yeah, so that was emailed to all of us. I
Gotcha,
think it
okay, I
went
just
to
wanted to
you,
make
went to
sure.
myself, went to Leslie, went to Armin, so.
So I'm not receiving it and you guys take care of it?
As long as, like, when you see those, if it shows that we're on it too, you don't need to worry sending it to
Okay,
us.
cool, thank you.
You're welcome. And Armin already reviewed that too.
Okay.
No, motion to approve the invoices as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Next, that vote was unanimous. And then just for your reference, this is updated workbook that Leslie and, that she's keeping within her office for all of the payments that we're making on these projects for the school bond. Right now, in total, and this, this goes from June through current, it doesn't include these invoices yet, so these will be added next time, so this is like what's in process. But what has already gone to the town for payment, we're at a total of $1.2 million. So that's all the work that we're doing between the stage 2 with Whitford Middle School, CIP, and also starting the stage 3 design work. Okay. We'll hand it over to you, Sam.
Great.
Presentations.
So I think we're gonna, if it makes sense, we're gonna have the AE team go first, because we know some of their team members have some time constraints.
Yeah,
So-
oh, thank you very much. And maybe what I'll just, I guess we'll have to talk here. So today we have, we'll just skip to our presentations. We have Jay Waller with us from PAL, Public Archaeology Laboratory Services. And then we also have Dave Potter with us from PAR. We'll start with Jay, who's going to give us a summary of the report and the work that they did for the archaeological survey. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Jay Waller. I am a senior archaeologist with the Public Archaeology Laboratory. I've been at PAL or PAL for over 30 years now. Conducted several hundred surveys in the state of Rhode Island and more than a dozen in North Kingstown itself, so I'm quite familiar with the archaeology of the town and in South County in general. So we were contracted to do what is called a Phase 1 Site Identification Archaeological Survey. The intent of a Phase 1 survey is to determine whether a project area has archaeological cultural resources that are potentially eligible for listing in the national or state registers of historic places. So we submitted our proposal to the State Historic Preservation Office, which is the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, who issued an archaeological permit for us to do the work. As a condition of that permit, we were required to notify the Narragansett Indian Tribal Historic Preservation Office, which we did, and a couple of the tribal members actually joined us in the field work for a portion of the survey. So what we did is we actually did archaeological hand testing within the construction footprint of the new school. That includes the building itself as well as the infrastructure as well. The roadways, the utilities, and essentially it was the entire Western Athletic Field, present day Western Athletic Fields. We dug 46 50 by 50 centimeter test pits. For those of you that don't speak metric, that's a little over 1.5 feet square. And we dug them down into natural subsoils. The soils themselves, as we were extracting them from the hole, we would sieve them, look through them to look for cultural materials, and also to evaluate the integrity of the soils. So in the process of our survey, our testing was distributed about the impact area. So it wasn't clustered in one area, it was kind of uniformly distributed across the entire impact area. And as expected, the test pitting showed that much of the area of the currently proposed project is in an area that has been previously disturbed by original construction of the school, as well as construction and maintenance of the athletic fields. Not surprising. However, there were a couple areas that had intact remnant soils, but they're highly localized. In fact, probably no longer than the center, no larger than the center of this, of all the tables around here. Within that, essentially what we found in these fill deposits were evidence of 19th and 20th century agricultural use that had been disturbed and reincorporated in the field, into the fills that were out there. For example, we found some old glass, we found evidence of old pottery sherds, and a couple old machine cut nails. These are materials that are common in 19th century agricultural contexts, which so we interpret them as associated with the old farm field that was there before the construction of the original school itself. We did find one very, very small locus of Native American activity. It was limited to a handful of flakes, which are stone tool manufacturing waste. The areas, it was very, very small, limited to an area no more than about 10 feet in diameter. Some of that area had been disturbed as well. And those materials themselves do not meet federal or state eligibility criteria for significance. So in PAL's professional opinion, we did the survey, and we have not recommended any additional work based on the lack of integrity out there and the lack of the variety of materials that are out there. We have drafted our report. It's been submitted to Perkins as well as to the town for review. We have received comment on that and submitted the report to the state. The state I talked to the state today. They are in receipt of the report. They technically have 30 days to review and comment on that. However, they expect to be able to get to that and comment on that much sooner than that. So we're actually expecting their response any day now, hopefully by the end of the week, but maybe next week as well.
Jay, will there be like a finalized report after that, or what we have is the report and where?
That is the report,
Okay.
with the exception of if the State Historic Preservation Office has any revisions or comments on it. So you do have it. If they do have a wish us to address something else, or to, even if it's just editorial stuff, we will generate a new copy and that will be circulated as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's essentially it in a nutshell from the cultural resource perspectives. Are there any other questions that you all have for me about the survey, the results, how we did it, who was involved, anything?
I guess, does the report go to the Narragansett?
It has been
Tribe?
submitted to the tribe, yes.
Yeah.
As a condition of our permit,
Yeah.
we're required to submit that to them as well.
And do you usually hear back from them, or is it like, they don't comment, it's like?
We usually do not. What happened, this is part of the, Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission.
It's more on the state level?
Yeah, they-
I gotcha.
The Narragansett Indian tribe deals with the state on a government-to-government relationship,
yeah.
so they would contact directly to the state, review and voice their comments, who would then inform us of
I
those.
gotcha. Were they on site when you found the?
They were, well, yes and no. They were not there on the initial day that we found it. The next day, we went out to do some more additional testing. They were there when we were doing the additional testing. So they're aware of the resource,
Okay.
they're aware of the materials that came out of it, and what the integrity was out there. Yes.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, and I'll forward the report to the committee so you have it also to view, and I'll put it on the website. But I didn't have any comments, after I reviewed it and sent that back.
Just a
Yes.
cautionary
Yeah.
tale
Mhm.
that archaeological site information is actually exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, only because it's a map for people to go out with shovels.
Okay.
And there is one map in there in particular that has sites that are still intact, that are not in your project area, that we use for context.
Okay,
So I would just recommend that you at least redact that map.
okay. So maybe within the report, I'm just looking at, the charts and the graph, any of the tables, is that okay to keep in the report?
Yes.
And then it would just be,
I would suggest maybe that
Yeah, we
Pit
can get a
Pal
new-
can
yeah.
issue whatever.
Yeah, we can,
Redacted
Yeah,
your
if
request,
you
if you
do
like, we
that,
can
'cause
take
I
a
just-
look at it.
looking at it, looks like probably after the page of references, we would just not release anything else after that point.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, if you wanna send me what we can put up on our website, that'd be
Mhm.
helpful.
I will, what I will do is I will await the state's review comments, and if they have any questions, we'll address and create a final version. Then at that time, we'll just strike anything that we think should not be public knowledge.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very
Thanks,
much, Jay.
Thank you all, have a good evening.
Thank you.
It,
And I know Jay's gonna
Thank
walk
you.
out the door.
it has been a pleasure working with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, yeah, Dave Potter will now, thank you, Jay. Give us an update on subsurface investigation.
Thank you. So, Tina had asked us to be here to talk a little bit about the subsurface investigations that were completed a few weeks ago at the school. There was a lot of coordination done, so hopefully to minimize disruption to operations, so hopefully that was satisfactory for everyone. We conducted a series of borings throughout the area of the proposed building footprint, and also a few site borings as well. In addition to that, there were test pits dug to look at, to take samples and do testing on soils for environmental contaminants. And then third, we had test pits that were excavated with backhoe to look at seasonal high groundwater table for excavation of or installation of a new on-site wastewater treatment system, and also our stormwater management system. So almost four major components to that subsurface investigation. Everything went well. From our standpoint, the results of the borings have been summarized into a geotech report. Our geotech engineers evaluated, analyzed the data that they received. If you remember, there was a preliminary geotech report that was completed in 2024. Results were very similar within the area of the building footprint. And if you have read the 2024 report, you might remember that there was a layer of fill about 4 feet deep in the location of the 4 borings done in 2024. There was similar results observed in these additional borings, but there were a few spots where that fill layer dipped as low as 6 feet. So our range in some places within the building footprint will go down to 6 feet. And what that means is a little more over excavation of that fill before you can lay down your soils to form the subgrade for your new foundations. So I think it's relatively good news. There will be a little bit more excavation cost there and cost for structural fill, but it's all within the realm of typical of what we'd see in a project in Rhode Island. The test pits allowed us to see, a boring is a very small opening, a test pit much larger, and with that we can determine how high the groundwater fluctuates in the springtime. With that information, we were able to tell that the water, actually, the groundwater does rise quite a bit on the site to within several inches of the finished grade, the current grade that's out there. So what that means is for the building, the geotech engineers typically recommend a subdrain to be placed around the building perimeter. In some places below the slab where the building might be below the water table. Recommend a subdrain which is constructed of PVC and crushed stone to wick that water away from the building. So with the presence of that water table, we believe that that type of system would be appropriate here. It's a gravity system, the cost is relatively, I don't say minor, there is a cost to it, but it's something you see in a lot of projects in Rhode Island. The other implications of the water table is that the location that we had identified for the on-site wastewater treatment system is not suitable for construction of that system. DEM has a process in which we notify them before the test pits are excavated. We schedule an appointment for their inspector to come down and see the test pits. That was done. Upon arrival, there were 3 test pits opened, and the inspector said, now this area, if you remember, it's near the outfield of the softball field, existing softball field. They said that area would not be suitable because the groundwater is within a certain distance of that original finished grade, which is down a few inches. So we, with the team, we looked at alternatives where else we could place the on-site wastewater treatment system. And we're now looking at the area where the existing leaching area is placed, where we know that previously soils suitable for septic were found.
Which is in that back corner.
Yeah,
Which is in the upper right-hand
This
corner of
one,
the drawings,
this
the
is
northeast corner.
right here. So this was the original proposed location, that's where they found that
That's
the
correct.
test pits indicate that it wasn't, and we talked a little bit about that. So now we're going back to this is where they are today,
Right.
and so,
Yeah, so the next steps would be, so we had budgeted 2 days of test pits with DEM to look at locations for the on-site wastewater treatment system and for our stormwater areas. We are gonna schedule that second day. We only have 1 day with DEM. We didn't wanna rush 2 days because we wanna make sure we had time to figure out where best to do those test pits. So we're planning a second day in the near future, so that we can identify an area suitable for that leaching area.
And we also had conversations about also inquiring around sewage, what the cost would be
Yes.
to connect the town sewer up, either from Tower Hill Road or Phillips, wherever it may be, what that cost would be for us, if that's a possibility, and that would avoid this work.
Yeah, we had worked with Adam Light on the DPW, he was very helpful. He has looked at the potential to bring sewer to the site to serve not only the school but other development within the area. And he has some rough cost information that he passed along to us. So that's something that's been talked about as well. And the third alternative has been to reuse the existing leaching area. We talked to DM about whether that would be an option, and they said that it would be something that they would consider. That comes with, some concerns, as to whether we build new or use that existing system.
Sorry, the existing is, where, is in that stormwater management area?
That's a proposed stormwater management area, so,
Yeah.
we would, that's where the existing leaching
That's where
area
the
is.
existing is,
Yeah, so we would have to find a new place for the
Understood.
stormwater management area,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
and Dave, just so that everyone knows, so what we're doing also is all these different alternatives that Dave has just described, they've been, there's a narrative for each one of those, so that we're getting an estimate for them, so that, we have more informed, information as we do decision-making. That next round of test pits, though, that would potentially inform even another, location, but that's where we are. And to that end, Kenny just brought up the idea that, there is the, distant possibility of something coming down Phillips, and PAR has put together a narrative of what it would cost to do the lateral and the lift station to connect to that, so we'll get an estimate for that as well.
Yeah, if the town wants to extend the sewer to that point, then the school would still need infrastructure to get this wastewater to that pipe.
Will you also include like, the life cycle maintenance costs for each option? The on-site wastewater versus the, I mean, just lift station?
Yeah, we can talk to them.
I mean, it'd just be interesting
Yeah.
to see,
Yeah.
may not make a difference depending on, you know, how much we have available, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
looking at
you'll
it
have a
from-
lift no matter what, right? Dave?
Yeah, there will be a,
It's a question whether you're pumping it to Phillips or you're pumping it to, so that'll be a constant. That is just which system.
Pumping it to a leach field, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just 'cause of the grades.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah. Yeah, so we can, but that's something that we can look at as life cycle cost.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
public sewer is always preferred. You know,
yeah,
if there's an opportunity to connect to public sewer, unfortunately, it's about a half mile away.
yeah.
So it's not a, if it was right out there now, we wouldn't be connecting to the
Yeah,
public sewer.
we'd show that connection already. And I think it's a pretty long run from building to Phillips too, right? That lateral alone is kind of a long run.
It is, yeah. I've got the length in our basis of design, but
Yeah.
it is, it is the length to get there.
Mhm.
So,
I think there's definitely a consideration with, you know, I mean, you know that the groundwater is very high there as well. And as you said, the preferred system is always attached to the public sewer. When you go down Phillips, you're not very far at all from like Cove, et cetera, so,
yeah.
it would be, I mean, I think long-term it would be a much better solution.
Yeah.
Um, And I think my understanding was, and Kenny, Ralph was talking about at the last meeting, that the sewer line had been brought up towards Woodford Elementary already. That's already happened.
It's,
It
I
was
don't
in
remember the exact,
anticipation
somewhere, yeah,
somewhere,
it's
so-
on Phillips, I don't remember exactly where it
Yeah.
is over
So
there, but
some of that work has already been done.
yes.
Yeah.
It's
I
already
think
part
near
of the way there.
intersection of Phillips and Church, I wanna say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about 2,500, 2,700 feet
Oh,
away
yeah,
from the
that's
site.
right.
Yeah, we looked at going north up Tower Hill Road too. There's another connection there, but it's about the same distance or 200 feet longer to go that direction. Yeah, and then, the environmental test pits, there were hand dug test pits excavated. Those soils were, put into jars, taken to a laboratory. Our environmental engineers just got the information back yesterday, so they are pouring through, pages of lab data to see if there are any issues. So I'll have an update, but we're hoping within the next few weeks we have a handle on if there are any contaminants or anything found.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
A lot of holes in the ground.
Yes, all filled.
We just need one big one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well,
Thank you,
thank you,
Dave.
Dave. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Dave.
much.
Tina, do you wanna keep going?
Yeah,
Okay.
should we just finish up?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, okay, so maybe if we just go to the front page and do, so,
Which slide?
just to the, to the, up
Cover?
the cover page.
Oh.
Or this, sorry, the agenda.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we've, check, we talked about those three things. Just to give a quick overview, the last time we met, we were getting ready to submit our documents to the estimator, which happened on November 14th. So the estimator has our documents, they've been reviewing those, we anticipate receiving their estimate next week. We had over 20 alternates that are described, that's a lot of alternates, but we know that there's a lot of different kinds of considerations that are being made. They did tell us today that the alternates might lag a little bit, but we should have that shortly thereafter. We've had two addenda that have been issued. The first one was the geotechnical report that just came, that Dave was just describing, that went to the estimator right before Thanksgiving. And then yesterday, the description, basically the findings from the geotechnical, which included the underslab drainage system, was added. The radon mitigation system description, passive system was added, as well as the hookup to the sewer as an alternate number 22. So that's the overview. Will be, we're really excited to hear that the CM will be coming on board because, and I appreciate the question, are they ready to start right away? Because we're ready to have them take a look at that estimate, because that estimate will come in, and we really do want all eyes on that, because it's an important one, especially since there will be a lot of decisions made about scope as it relates to cost. I'm just gonna quickly talk one moment about incentives, and then we'll go to Mark, will, talk about the design. Just a quick update on incentives. We've also, as we have the documents to the estimator, the team has been doing all kinds of other things. One of them is investigating what are some possible things, and Rhode Island Energy does have their program, so we've worked to form a relationship with them. There is a memo of understanding that has been signed. There's 2 tiers of incentives that you could achieve. We don't know which one we would actually, which tier we would be in, and that won't be known until after we get the pricing, we understand what the systems are. But that process has started. What they do is they now have told us about this third-party engineer that would be evaluating doing a model of some sort, and we are going to be sending them our documents so that they can start that evaluation. So that's on the move. And now I think we can move to the design portion, unless there's any questions or thoughts. Okay. So now, Mark will.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'll be very brief because I think most of this is familiar to everyone. I think the one, and I'll talk a little bit here and then we'll go to the next slide, is through the efforts in stage 2 where we were encouraged to look for efficiencies, simplify the building form, simplify the site. The building also became much simpler. What we've done with the design team is look at ways we can bring sort of character and scale back into that, because that's one of the things that starts to sort of go away a little bit as we simplify. So what you start to see here is a little bit more mix of materials. If you go to the next slide. So looking at a mix of brick with a manufactured stone. So for those who are familiar with it, that's a stone that sets up very similar to brick. So it's a way for us. So all of these are cost-effective materials, but bring a bit more variety. Metal panel we like to use sometimes to it gives us a texture, especially when we're on some large volumes like the gym and the cafeteria. So looking at mixing those 3 or 4 materials together to give a little bit more character to the building, as well as some of the proportions of the windows. So it's very much equal and repetitive in terms of classrooms, but looking at ways of maximizing daylight but bringing some character to the exterior. The plans, and I think these plans are more or less.
Yeah, the plans were there for reference,
Yeah.
just to remind if we need to review anything, but not anything specific today.
Yeah, still very, very straightforward in terms of kind of grade level goes by floor. I know we've had extensive meetings with user groups, and those will keep going through the next phase as we get closer and closer to the meeting. I'm happy to talk about it or answer any questions.
I would just ask, has the facilities group been engaged, or maybe we're not at that point yet, maybe that's more down the road when we're picking finishes and stuff like that. I would just like them to have a look at, we're proposing this versus.
And also, in terms of with the MEP, right, systems.
Correct, yeah.
These guys are gonna have to drive it.
Right.
When we turn it over.
Yeah.
So make sure they're all comfortable
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, so we have not, as far as like that design part, we have not.
Yeah, we're
hit that
probably
part
there,
yet,
that,
but
not
we
there
will.
yet.
We've, there have been some groups that we've been meeting with, but we, once we get into stage 3, right, meeting with more of the subgroups of people that need to provide some input and
Right,
feedback
right.
to us, that will happen. So.
And I'll also just add to that is, there's going to be a large meeting called Integrated Design Meeting, and that's where you bring everyone to the table to review the goals of the project in terms of its performance and things like that.
Right.
Certainly the estimate will inform some of that, goal making. And that meeting will have the commissioning, the idea is to have, once they're on board, have them on board at the meeting as well as the CM. So that's.
Yeah, and part of that, we're still doing Northeast Church. So
So right now, because we haven't been told otherwise by RIDE, we're moving
doing
forward
what-
with Northeast Chips.
What's regulated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but because a lot of, you know, I think, and understandably, a lot of conversation about sustainability goes to those things like geothermal and
Right.
and photovoltaics, but much of our work goes into the building envelope.
Sure.
And that's all part of that, so,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, that's some of the best things we can do is, make the best envelope, and the one that's gonna function and be as efficient as possible.
Thank you.
Great, we'll pivot back to the OPM update, and I'll start us off, and then I'll hand it over to Erica. So just, on the stage 2, I think we talked about this at the last meeting. So, RIDE did come back with comments. Back in October, we resubmitted a whole slew of information. A lot of it was focused on the CIP work because, you know, I think RIDE had really already seen a lot of the information on Whitford Middle School. So we did do a resubmission on the 10th to RIDE. As we were going through that, and that process required us to do a lot of budgetary moves to meet RIDE requirements for budgets, not necessarily to change what your approach is on our overall project budgets. And I think we've talked about this in the past. The RIDE budget is, we find it peculiar, we understand why they do it, but things like FF&E that we include in our project budget, that's a cost that you will have, they don't reimburse, so they don't wanna see it on the budget that you submit to them. It doesn't mean that we don't need to buy it, and that there's a financial commitment to doing that, but they don't reimburse it, so they don't wanna see it. They also have a cap, and we talked about this on soft costs, it's only allowed to be 20%, so we had to go through and actually basically meet that 20% requirement regardless of the fact that if you were exceeding it in the aggregate with all the soft costs. So part of that is just, because again, stage 2 is a funding approval process, not necessarily the detailed budget that you go through. As we were going through that, we also found some discrepancies on the last round of the CIP cost estimates. So those were caught and updated in the version that was submitted to RIDE. We're still trying to chase those discrepancies through, and what we would recommend is let's get the approval first so we understand how RIDE is going to approve all this work. And then we'll talk about it in a minute, but Ed's also in the midst of the schematic design cost estimate, which is really gonna be our first real hard look at the CIP work. Understandably, the CIP stage 2 work that went in, or the addendum that went in, was put together very rapidly. Not quite from scratch, but there was a lot of work that had to be done in a 90-day window. So this SD round that Ed is already submitted is gonna give us so much better information. So I think when we look at that, those discrepancies that we found and the approvals, we can really try to aggregate and come back to this building committee with kind of a comprehensive review of where we stand. The scopes of work for each of those CIPs remain the same. It's just whether all the cost estimates didn't align from what we saw, and we're now trying to kind of make sure that all those numbers tack and tie. We are expecting, although we have not heard yet, if RIDE is, and the SBA is ready to approve this, we understand there will be their meeting is typically on or about the 15th of December. So we believe it's going to be that week, so that's just 2 weeks out. We haven't heard any indication. Sometimes districts will get a heads up that the approval is kind of pending. We haven't heard anything. I don't know if you've heard anything. I would say in our review meetings with the SBA, as we were going through this last round of comments, we didn't hear anything that was a showstopper. It was more just kind of making sure that we were getting all this stuff aligned. So that's that update, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that before I turn it back over to Erica.
Maybe we can touch base with RIDE.
Yeah,
Just
like,
see if there's-
you could, they're gonna be more responsive to you
Right,
than
I
us,
can
probably.
reach out,
Yeah.
send an email.
I wanna say no news is good news, but.
That's what I'm saying, I don't
yeah.
push
Yeah,
anything, but.
right. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Erica, and she's gonna walk us through, the rest of the report.
Thank you, Sam. So,
The first update that we have just globally on stage 3 is that there are a lot of moving parts with both the CIP work and the Wickford Middle School, so we wanted to at least start to lay out the framework of, and a schedule of all the activities that are taking place. I won't go into it in a lot of detail, but I think some of the key items to know are that CMAR selection, so bringing on that construction manager right now is going to really further inform the Wickford Middle School schedule. So hopefully we'll be able to really kind of grind this out a little bit more and have a bit more detail or more informed information as we move forward as well. We are continuing to progress with both the design for Wickford Middle School and the CIP projects going into the new year. I think next time we meet on January 12th, I believe it is, that is going to be the SD estimates, schematic design estimates for both the CIP and middle school projects, and we'll be bringing to you kind of the package to approve and recommend for us to submit to RIDE. That will be maybe the last time you'll get a full package of both all the CIP projects and the middle school project together, because what we'll see now is that the high school roof is really going to accelerate in order to get that work underway, targeting, I believe it's next summer, so summer 2026. So again, just highlighting some major milestones as well. The building for the middle school, we're targeting a completion of Q2, Q3 of 2028. And that is for the building itself, not for any of the site work and the demolition of the existing building. And then again, looking for the high school roof to, that work to begin this coming summer. And then for the elementary and the middle school work, that construction is really going to take a little bit more time. We understand that that will most likely be kind of multiple summers too, so multiple rounds, just given the fact that they're occupied spaces. But wanted to at least bring to this group that we are thinking about these projects holistically as we're working through the schedule too.
Yeah, and I think this is meant to not be an exact replication of the design schedules, but and that's why you see everything in quarters. It's more kind of global, so that you guys have a little bit of a dashboard at each of these meetings to say, okay, when does CIP happen? When are we when are we starting construction on the middle school? These will move, but I think in general they represent, you know, what was submitted in stage 2 and what we kind of collectively come up with when we did our card trick scheduling exercise, and then how we've kind of evolved. They will change, they'll continue to change. I think the CIP is probably where we'll see more movement, because phasing may become more evident to approach it maybe slightly differently as we get into the, you know, all the elementary schools, and especially VMS and how that gets kind of broken up.
So moving down to kind of updates on the Wickford Middle School, Perkins Eastman and their team did a great job providing an overview, so I won't go into too much detail on the top 2 bullets, but just as a quick update on the building code and authorities having jurisdiction. So we did submit a formal letter on November 25th to the building official, and that's requesting that the building is permitted under the current code. We understand that the new code will take effect in January, so our goal is to get under, at least have approval to proceed as the design team works through kind of which is best for this project. The construction coordination, we just approved or recommended approval of the construction manager at risk, and we've discussed that. Regarding the project labor agreement feasibility study, so this group did recommend that we engage a counsel to advance the study. We now have a signed agreement, and Peregrine will actually be taking on that as a reimbursable. So we have brought on Panon, Lopez, Devereaux, and O'Gara. Did I get that?
Panon, Lopez, Devereaux.
And so they're going to begin that feasibility study to determine whether or not a PLA is needed for the project, or recommended for the project.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is it's actually good that the CM is now merging into this process, because ideally they will sit with the CM as well as the design team and the project management team as they go through and kind of check the boxes on the PLA eligibility. So I think it, you know, the timing helpful. They could have done it without the CM in the room, but I think it'll just better inform that study as that work is done and we bring that back to this group.
And lastly, for Wickford, just the commissioning agent, so we did recommend Stephen Turner as commissioning agent to this group, and it was approved. We are right now going through their scope of services, and just making sure that the work that they are providing aligns with what's needed for the project. So we may come out with an updated proposal regarding some of the quantities of meetings that we may reduce, but that is in the works right now as well.
Yeah, and I think the committee approved, and then I think it went to school committee as well, right, at the maximum amount. So if anything, it's just gonna be under that, so it'll just be a refinement of that number and that scope, as we've been working with them offline. And then they'll be able to jump right into the process with the AE team, because RIDE has certain milestones that they wanna see the commissioning agent participate in as we start to submit during the stage 3 phases.
Thank you. Any other questions on the middle school before we move on to capital improvements? So, moving down then for the high school roof, and really all the projects right now, the design plans are with the cost estimators. And so we will again be bringing the next round of cost estimates to this committee on January 12th. We've also started to begin scheduling meetings with school and department staff, which we're looking to complete in the beginning of December. And then my colleague Matt has been on site with the acoustician, going into the elementary schools and the middle school to get a baseline in terms of what the acoustical readings are for those spaces. So, and that's been
Just came back from Fishing
coordinated
Cove,
with DBVW.
and we're doing it after hours, so we just don't interfere with any other classes or noise.
And that's more just to look at the sound impact from the
The HVAC
mechanical
units on the roof
systems and how that'll impact the classrooms.
inside the classroom.
It's really baseline data collection, right?
Correct.
And I think, as we talked about at the last meeting, the decision on which kind of roofing approach will either trip or not trip some of the requirements that any CHIPS has for acoustical separation and concerns. So that'll be also part of the cost estimating to kind of look at, is it a recover versus a whole buildup, pros and cons of those, things that they do from a process standpoint. So Ed's, the cost estimating team is gonna be able to look at that variability, and then we'll be able to talk about kind of the practical side of it as well as just kind of the implementation side of it, right?
Correct. And that's really only applicable to the elementary schools.
Yeah, because the high school will get, it already,
Full
yeah.
boat.
Yeah, yeah. And understandably, newer building, so easier to accomplish there, I think, even though it's a lot of square footage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Moving on to the third and final page for budgets. So we have both the Wickford Middle School and capital improvements project budgets. One thing to note, and it's for Wickford Middle School, as we are moving through just the overall design and project, we're starting to build out this budget a little bit more, so you start to see hard costs, soft costs, other costs. And as we progress, that will be built out even further so that we have commissioning, move management, a variety of different owner costs in addition to the AE construction and OPM costs as well. So this is kind of where we are in a snapshot right now. We are holding the project budget at $72.4 million. One item to note, for Sam, comment Sam made about FF&E. For the middle school, I want to clarify that that is a reimbursable item from RIDE because it is a new construction. So there is some nuance just with the CIP work that's being done. That is not reimbursable under RIDE. And then down below for capital improvements, the total budget is $68.9 million. This again, as we kind of move further in the process, we'll actually start to break out individual budgets as well for the various projects that are taking place, but at this time, we're giving a more general snapshot.
Yeah, and I think that, again, once we pass the approval milestone, then, and we have all these budgets all detailed out, but we wanna get the approval so we understand how everything is kinda shaken out from the cost standpoint. So what we will be able to add, to Erica's point, is a detailed budget on each project. It's gonna be a lot of volume, and some of that stuff will not move a lot from month to month, except for probably the soft costs in the interim. We just wanna make, we want the committee to understand kind of, okay, here's the moving parts in these 6 or 7 additional schools or additional projects in addition to the middle school project, which is gonna be all consolidated. So, a little bit complicated. We've been trying to figure out the best way to illustrate it to the committee members without overwhelming you with a bunch of numbers that will just kind of get lost in the, in the mix, so. We're getting there.
That completes the OPM update. Any questions from the committee?
Hey, anything else from your end? I think we did just about everything. Awesome, great.
All right, well, that's everything that we have for tonight, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.